Hello and welcome to Gorilla and the Geek, the podcast for sweaty nerds by sweaty nerds. My name is Kyle from Geeks Weekly, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend John the Ginger Gorilla. John, how you doing today?
Kyle, I am doing so well. I'm super excited for the conversation we're about to have today. To wrap up, this had to wait. Like this podcast, as some of you may know if you watch us consistently, we delayed it a week just so we could have this conversation. So one, we haven't gotten sweaty in a week longer than normal. So I got pent up sweat in my pores right now, and I'm ready to let it loose.
Yeah, it's weird. I haven't recorded with anyone outside of like my solo reviews I do on my channel in a while, so it's kind of nice to do some collaborative content for the first time in a minute. And the reason we haven't put out a podcast in the usual every other week format is because we were waiting for the finale of WandaVision to come out, and that's what this podcast is actually about. Obviously, if you've seen the title, and John, this series finale has sparked a lot of discussion. But what I've noticed is that happens with every show, and we're eventually going to get into that. But it's been 3 episodes since our last podcast, and I don't want to go over everything that happened within each episode. Instead, what I was wondering is if you could give your general thoughts on the series as a whole.
Um, I am very happy with this series and its introduction to the the Marvel Universe as a TV show, right? So KG, a friend that you guys may have seen on the Geeks Weekly page, or I think he was. Did he do one of our? No, he missed that podcast. Sorry, he was going to do one of our podcasts with us, but he missed it. Um, but he mentioned that I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to be first, come out first, and then it was supposed to be WandaVision. I'm so happy that this was the introduction show because I think it built that suspense in the Marvel and almost like that craving for the next episode. And now, although I'm super excited for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I don't know if it's gonna build that weekly I can't wait to see what happens in the next one. I'm probably gonna be excited for the next episode, but I think it's gonna be in the way of like, man, that was so much fun. I can't wait for the next one. Right? Where and I mean, who knows? Might be surprised, right? We eat our words a lot on this show, so who knows? Um, but the the series as itself of just that I have no idea what's happening. I want to figure out more. The whole internet getting behind it basically and creating that almost event television. I think it set up Marvel TV shows on Disney Plus to a good notch, right? And I hope they keep continuing with this momentum going forward. I know we have shows for basically the rest of the year once they get started again. So hey, man, I'm ready. I'm ready, and this show set it up perfectly.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you that I'm glad that this one came out first, and you had alluded to the way that I would excuse me, the way that I would view this show and how I would describe it to someone. I would describe it as a really fun ride. It starts off slow, maybe a little bit slower than you or I would have preferred at first. I still feel that way, but I'm not sure if some people have changed over time. And throughout that, with the weekly releases, which I came to really appreciate, you and I have discussed the topic of event television on this podcast many times and how we
Yeah.
both kind of long for those days again. However, we do both appreciate the binging experience as well. We've binged plenty of things for this podcast, and we will continue to do so in the future.
Hmm.
But having these weekly releases is such a fun, almost nostalgic experience for us because we grew up in the era where that was still a thing. There are people below us in age who probably have never really experienced that, which is kind of wild to me.
Yeah.
And I think that this adding a return to form for that is really exciting, and it's something I hope Marvel does continuously going forward. I almost wish so. Falcon and Winter Soldier, we discussed off air, 6 episodes, right?
6 episodes. And I kind of mapped out. how they said when Loki's supposed to come out in May.
Yeah.
So it's going to be once a week. I don't think we're
Oh,
not getting
so
we're not getting 2 episodes the first week,
good.
because it wouldn't map out. It would cut it short into April that this would end, and or Loki would begin. And it says Loki's release is May. So doing all that, planning, and it seems like we're gonna get one a week. It's only 6 episodes, which is very interesting. Which I'm hoping then will be hour-long episodes, but we'll get to our hopes for that later.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Uh,
so
but I mean, otherwise, I think that it was a really fun mystery show, and I think that we again, something else we've discussed previously is the topic of Marvel continuing to interweave other genres into their superhero universe, and I think that
mhm.
just creates a lot of fun atmospheres. And I don't know. I mean, I don't remember the last time outside of like Black Mirror, kind of, where we had as a culture a really fun, massively successful mystery suspenseful show.
Yeah.
I can't think of one, and I'm glad we got that experience. Now, I'm not sure how people are feeling about it now, but
Mhm.
again, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it. I thought of actually a great analogy for what this show was, right?
Hmm.
And how it could be seen going forward as like a rewatch type of thing. And I thought I connected to Disney because, Disney this is their product, right? So in
Yeah.
Disney World, there's a ride, Kyle, called Splash Mountain, right?
For the record,
And
just for the listeners at home, I've never been to Disney World,
this is
so
why I'm
John's
about this is why
talking
I'm
to me.
about it. This I'm gonna describe this ride perfectly for you. But it's a log flume ride basically, where there's one big drop, and that's like the exciting part. Inside there's some little drops, right? But the ride, how it goes is you go into like this tunnel system, and there's like stories being told throughout the system. They recently reworked it to tell a different story. Um, I don't know what it is, but tunnel system you go through and it tells a story, right? And you're like, this is kind of slow. This isn't really exciting. And then it gets to this point where you have the big drop. Or I think during the ride there's some smaller little log flume drops, and then there's the big drop. That's what this show is, right? You're like, this is a little slow. This is like I'm just sitting in a log, kind of being told the story here. Those are the first couple episodes. You hit a
Yeah,
couple of the bigger drops. You're like, this is getting exciting. I know I'm getting closer to that big drop. And then you have the big drop, and it's all over, and you go, I had fun, but was it worth it? And then you go on it again because you're like, it was fun still, right?
yeah.
And I think that's what the
I like
show
that.
is. I just when you were talking, I thought of that analogy. I was like, I need to say this. That's so creative.
Yeah,
So shout
I
out
like
Disney
that.
World.
I it's again, it's led to a lot of online discussion, and I actually wanted to get your take on a couple of different categories for the show before we get into the larger discussion about how we receive this type of content now.
Hmm.
So, first, I'd like to ask you, who's your favorite character from the show?
Um.
Maybe outside of Wanda, if you can.
Okay, I was gonna say Wanda.
Yeah, I had a
But
feeling.
um, I think Woo.
I like that. Okay,
Jimmy Woo. I I saw someone say that they want him to have a spin-off show, almost like an X-Files type show,
I've been seeing
where
that.
he goes around the Marvel universe and investigates as like the head FBI agent. Maybe have him and Darcy, they go around and they investigate um like superhuman crimes that may happen,
Hmm.
where it's not like a full blown like we need a superhero, but we're like, hey, someone robbed this store and they may have had superpowers, right? And I mean, that might be something that we could see going forward with if they introduce mutants like from the X-Men, because there'll be more people with powers in the on Earth, right? Because right now I think that most of the people who have powers on Earth that we know of are superheroes, right? So if they introduce mutants, then you might have more superhuman activity that then they can go and investigate. I'm just saying, I'm like basically writing the show for Disney right now. There's so many ideas. I'm about to give out so many ideas today. Thank God we're being recorded.
For me, it was Monica Rambeau. I find
She's up there too.
I find her. I mean, she's obviously going to become a superhero.
Yeah.
She has superpowers. She is already a natural born heroine, And I liked how, although she was a background character or a supporting character, I like that we do get an arc for her.
Mm-hmm.
She herself is going through grief throughout the show, but it has to be cut short very quickly, although it's still in the back of her head. She gains these powers, and then she tries to save someone from themselves. And I just,
Also,
oh, go ahead.
she might have one of the best scenes in the series of
When
the
she,
hospital.
oh, in the hospital. Oh,
What at
that might be one of the best scenes in
post
all of
snap?
Marvel,
Yeah,
actually.
the post snap and the panic, and that is one of, I mean, amazing.
Yeah, that I mean that was I mean when you think back to what the show was, you think back to those such a scenes. It's like, wow, that's so cool that we actually got to see that. I never thought we would get to see what post snap would look like. That was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, phenomenal. So that's my favorite character. Any character you didn't necessarily like?
Um, I
I have
don't
one.
I maybe who's the director of
Hayward.
maybe him. Just I don't think he was. I mean, I get what he was doing, and it played to the storyline of Vision. But it just I don't know. It was just seemed like a stereotypical.
That's the issue with his character. It's very stereotypical,
Yeah.
cartoonish bad guy, director, villain guy.
It that was one of the obvious things that like in this um show. Like as soon as you saw him, you're like, oh, he's not good. Like there's
Yeah,
something he's not a good guy. Um, but besides that, I mean, everyone else I really enjoyed. So I mean, I think he's the only one that I could like really give a notch to.
I have one, and it's mostly due to my personal disappointment in it. And
Mm,
I think you'll agree once I say it. Pietro Maximoff,
yeah.
aka Ralph Boner.
Well, anyone who watched the last episode, I told you everybody my man crush on Evan Peters. So I'm horribly disappointed at the use.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good actor. And I had mentioned, I don't know if it was last podcast or the podcast before. I think it might have been last one. I had mentioned how back in his younger days, he played like the wacky guy who kind of talks like this. And using him in this man child character whose last name is Boner, uh, it felt like a massive troll job to me,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you. And I feel like there was such a better use of his character. Although I will say this, I had predicted maybe on the podcast, maybe off the podcast, that character was Ralph, who was
Mm-hmm.
Agatha's quote unquote husband. I also thought that Ralph was secretly Mephisto. So I was half correct because he is Ralph, but no, he's not Ralph Mephisto. He is Ralph Boner.
There's a
Uh,
what we learned from this is a little Mephisto in everybody.
yeah, little Mephisto. Yeah, and although we might be seeing him in the future, who knows? It's that one was just pure disappointment to me. We had so many people, like, the internet exploded when that happened. Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It it wasn't to the level of Luke Skywalker, but it was still really big. But people, when that happened, I had said, "Oh, that's the cameo that they were talking about,"
Mm-hmm.
and everyone else was like, "No, that's not Luke Skywalker level." And I was like, "Well, it might be in terms of like shock value, because is this the X-Men universe's Quicksilver?" I had a feeling it was not, and it turned out to be true. I am confused as to how he got speed powers, although I assume it was from that necklace.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have liked to have seen Evan Peters get like an actual role throughout the MCU going forward, rather
Mm-hmm.
than um
A
getting
waste.
boned,
It's
as it were.
almost yeah, it's almost a waste of his acting prowess because you can't really do anything with him now.
No, he's done.
Except I do have a theory of how he could possibly be intervened, but that's for the same theory I was telling you about earlier.
Okay.
So we'll get to that later. Stay tuned for my zany theory of everything that's gonna happen after this.
All right. And next question, John. Do you have a favorite episode? Because I do.
Oh God.
I'll go first, and while I go, you can think of yours.
Yeah.
Mine was actually episode 8. I didn't think it would be, but after watching the finale on Friday morning, I realized that episode 8 is a such an important episode for the character of Wanda. It sets up her motivations, it sets up who she is, it makes you feel for her. And I had I'd wondered going into the last 3 episodes, all right, if this was Wanda all along, I I don't know how she comes back from this. This is bad what she did. Uh what can they do to really redeem her outside of having her sacrifice herself?
Mm.
And to explain that she isn't just grieving the loss of vision, but she's been grieving her entire life, that does help. And to show her as a little girl, to show that she maybe had powers the entire time, even
Mm-hmm.
pre Mind Stone. I think it was a really cool look at a character uh, in a really in depth way that we maybe couldn't have gotten outside of like a solo film.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
Um, I that has to be one of the ones up there. Also, I think it's episode 5. Um, yeah, episode 5 is just when Vision starts to realize like things that are tracking in this reality, this
Yeah.
facade, and he's starting to realize. Um, this is one of the episodes. This is the episode where the dog dies. So you're
Okay.
starting to get hints that Agnes is maybe not as perfect as she seems, and then pretty sure by the end, this is the end of the episode where you get the Evan Peters reveal at the end. I think it's
Yeah.
episode 5. But yeah, that was just one of my favorite episodes. Honestly, anything episode I think 4 and on is just so good. Like I don't think any of the episodes after 4, I was like, huh, like oh, this is a little right. Okay, I wasn't underwhelmed. Like everything after, I was
Gotcha.
just like, oh my god, this is great. So it's hard to choose a favorite. I am excited to rewatch this, um, to see how I feel about it the second time, right? Because especially those first 3 episodes, I heard on the second watch, they're better than on the first watch because you know what's going on, and I guess you kind of know to expect that they're going to be slow.
Yeah. So, I had recorded my non spoiler review, I think a half hour after watching episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the quickest I've had at least a slight shift in perspective on something that I've reviewed. And that's because I, I found myself in so much excitement over what was going on with the show in terms of the online discussion.
The
Our
Star Wars
Yeah,
effect.
exactly. A little bit of the Star Wars effect. Our friend group was super hyped on the show. We were talking about it every week, and it was really fun. That I did ignore two things in particular that were negatives for me, and just kind of I pushed it to the side just because of the hype of everything. And I still overall, again, I still think it's a really fun show. I think it was a really good ride. I don't think I would give it a 9 now. I think I'd probably give it either probably an 8. And the first of those issues is Agatha. I find it confusing how they phrased it as it was Agatha all along.
Mm.
Well, no, it was Wanda. So was it just were they talking about the little strange things as Agatha all along? And if so, I feel as though she almost feels a little bit like a jobber just to get Wanda over as this new all powerful being within the universe. Now, what I'm expecting is that she'll come back later on
Mm-hmm.
and be less of a villainous character and more of like
She's like so
Loki esque.
spoiler to the comics, I guess we could say. Um, but Agatha, I think in the comics, she starts off as a villain, but then she comes almost like a role model to Wanda of like
Yeah.
how to like to help her learn her magic and whatnot.
And that's what I'm
Um,
hoping she becomes eventually.
yeah, because especially once again another actress who I want to see used.
Catherine Hahn, yeah.
Catherine Hahn she played this role perfectly. And that costume design once again with the witch and like the black fingertips, it was perfect.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
worked really well.
So that was one issue I had. And the next one is, I guess it leads into the next question as well. Earlier on into our pods about the show, I'd mentioned that I hope that Wanda is not the big bad. She's not become like the evil one. Now, Agatha mentions that the destiny of the Scarlet Witch is to destroy the world. And I wrote down, is Wanda now the next ticking time bomb, big bad of the MCU? Do we want that? The answer for me is I don't want that. I would rather her be either a Shades of Grey character leaning towards good or just a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to buck the trend of absolute power plus trauma corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
I want her to lean towards the side of good. I don't mind that this is like a bump in the road for her or a the one big slip up of her powers, but I'd like this to be more of a learning experience rather than her turning towards the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
So I would. I mean, I don't think she'll ever be seen as total good again, right?
No. Well, she never
Just
was.
yeah, that's the thing. Like she started off as a villain, uh, and so I think we're gonna get more of her being just gray, and this plays into once again that theory that I was thinking of for the future. Um, but I think she's gonna be a very gray character where she's not doing things with bad intent, but it might cause bad experience. Like this,
Mm.
she didn't do this for bad intent, and I still think that she started this not on purpose. I think that scene when we see her like she's standing in the house and then she just kind of bursts. I think it's just so much emotion that her power kind of just like explodes, right? And
Yeah.
it creates this fantasy world that she's living in. I didn't think she meant to do that because she says all along that she doesn't know how it started. So I don't think she knew that power. And at the end, once again, spoiler just in case if you're just saying, making sure. But for the ending credit scenes, there's two of them if you haven't watched them. The ending credit scenes, you see her astro self studying, right? So I don't think I think she knew how to do like certain things with her powers, right? Like, but I don't think she knew how to do all that. I think it was just such an emotional burst that it like it happened, right? So with that in mind, um, I don't think as a viewer we could perceive her fully as a bad person. Now I understand in that world she's seen to a lot of people as a bad person. Which Marvel likes to do and likes to set up for possibly future villains. But I don't think she'll be ever just a fully seen as like a perfectly good Avenger, right? So with that, I don't think she's bad, right? But I think she's still gonna be doing things that end up turning bad.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. As long as she's not like the next Thanos,
No, I don't
I'm
think
cool
that's
with it.
gonna happen. And I mean, obviously, I've been neck deep in theories. I'm going full conspiracy in the Marvel world right now, like how conspiracy theorists just dive into a wormhole of something. I'm doing that with Marvel content and possible storylines that they're going down. Um, so I don't think she's the next big bad. I have an idea of who it might be, but I don't think it's gonna be her.
And with that said, let's have the discussion about theories.
Hmm.
So, a lot of people post finale seem to have been disappointed
Yeah.
for, I guess, plenty of reasons. Uh, Even within our friend group, you and KG had said that you expected something big to happen in the finale, right? Some big
Hmm.
reveals, maybe some characters coming in. And that's because with the show releasing week to week, it allowed for conversation and for theories to come out. And that's like the buzzword of all this, the theory
Yeah.
crafting, right? And some people feel as though the weekly releases hurt it in that way. Some people feel as though people shouldn't be theory crafting. Some people feel as though uh, when you release the show week to week, you leave yourself open to this, which it makes it susceptible to disappointment. There have been some parallels to Game of Thrones, which I can't really speak to because I didn't watch that.
Mm.
Um, I heard someone mention Westworld. Again, didn't watch that. Now I feel like I'm kind of glad if all these shows had bad endings.
Mhm.
Um, Now I think to say that this was a bad ending is a bit of an overstep. Not even a bit. It's a pretty large
Yeah.
one in my opinion.
Yeah.
But again, everyone has a different take on things. You're allowed to think that if you did. I just think that this was at least a decent wrap up to the story as a whole. People were expecting this to lead into Fantastic Four, the Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man, No Way Home. What's the X-Men? People were expecting so many different things, and I think that's where people went wrong. Expectation.
Yeah.
And real quick, my take on it leading into other things, I said this in my review, is I'm glad it was a mostly contained story about Wanda Maximoff
Mm.
because I didn't know too much about this character, and now I'm invested in her. And that is all I really want out of my stories for the most part. I want to be invested in a character, and the show did that. Now, before I give my take, I'd like to hear what you think on this big topic about theory crafting and what it does to either help or hurt a show.
Um. So I honestly think it helps the show. I can't, and I see where it hurts in certain aspects of the build up and possibly, but I think that's someone having to manage their own expectations, right? And letting the hype get to them, right? I mean, just to allude to things, we're recording this on Sunday, March 7th. As Kyle and I have talked about on the show before, we are UFC fans. And last night, one of our favorite fighters, Israel Adesanya, lost his move up in weight to challenge for the weight class above him, the belt at light heavyweight. And there was a lot of hype behind him, and now the hype has kind of fell down because everyone was like, "Man, they're going ahead." And it was the same thing, theory crafting almost, but in the sports world, where it's like, "Man, he's gonna beat the light heavyweight, and then he's gonna go up to heavyweight, and he's gonna beat John Jones at heavyweight, and he's gonna be the craziest thing ever." Right? And but that's part of the fun, right? So with WandaVision and this theory crafting, part of the fun of every week was hopping on Twitter and reading things, was going on Reddit and reading the discussions, was watching shout out Heavy Spoilers, the YouTube channel Heavy Spoilers.
For real.
Amazing videos. If you guys are watching this, go check them out. But like going onto those pages and having these breakdowns, seeing the Easter eggs, having connect to the comics, and building that hype for what's the possibility is there. I think one thing we need to learn is to manage the expectations, which I didn't fully do. I let it run away, right? I let my dreams like take over of like, man, it would be so cool if they moved this into that and that into this and they went here and they went there. And the truth is it's fine if they don't, right? Let this show be its own thing, right? And it's still playing into future things, right? I mean, once again, I have a theory where this is going to go, but I think it's going to play into the future of Marvel, just not in 7 different directions, right? This one show isn't going to control the fate of X-Men and Fantastic Four and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and Captain Marvel and what is it? Miss Marvel is the one of the new characters coming? Is that the one
Yeah,
from the
I think that's a show.
Yeah, but it's
There's so much stuff.
that's the thing, and it. Why does this show have to have the weight of all those shows? Also, like lead to all those shows. It doesn't have to, right? And I think the internet built it up to feel like, oh, it's gonna hit all of these, and although it's fun to dream and feel that, I don't think it's needed. I think it's unfair almost to the creatives behind the to be like, hey, could you make this show and then hey, can you make it have just a little fingerprint on everything else after? It's not fair, especially because it's going to take away from the show. But also at the same time, I love the theories, so we need that because with this event television, I think that's the fun is like kind of like the Christmas morning type thing where this build up for Christmas and the excitement of, oh, I hope I get this as a present, I hope I get that as a present. We still got some awesome presents. It may not have been everything we wanted, but we got amazing presents. So we should be happy for what we got and not sad about what we didn't get, type of thing.
Yeah, especially if it's not promised. I know that there were
Yeah.
some quotes in interviews from some of the actors, and I don't think that they meant to let us down in any
No,
way.
I think they're trying to be funny.
Yeah, however, I do think that if you're doing the weekly release thing,
Mm-hmm.
now take that as a learning lesson as to like roll some of that back a little
Yeah,
bit. Because I
clam
mean,
it
the
up.
people were getting what like the Paul Bettany quote, like, oh, who didn't he work with? People were like trying to scroll through his IMDb to see who actors he hasn't worked with yet, and it's like, guys, relax. It just let's just see where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to repeat anything you said. I wholly agree. I think that part of the fun is the conversation, and that's why it's event television. It's that it's we listened to a podcast where they referred to the phrase water cooler commentary. And that's what the show was. It had a lot of water cooler talk. If we worked in an office, we'd be going over to fill up our paper water cups, being like, "Hey, did you watch the new WandaVision last night?" So I think, well, this morning, I think that it just worked. Oh, one real quick aside: next time, Marvel, let's not do the 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. Eastern time thing. Let's just put it out like Thursday night, like a movie would.
That would be
Can't,
yeah, that'd be nice. So we could watch it at night and then next morning. But once again, and then it comes down to like what time do we do that at? Like, cause like, do you release it at different times around the world? So then like people,
well, it's releasing at different times throughout the world already, I
that's
guess. But
true.
I don't
But
know
yeah,
because it's 3 a.m. here, and I had to like stay off Twitter for a couple hours, but that who cares? But anyways, so that yeah, that's kind of what I mean. You've laid out everything that I wanted to say, so thank you for making my job easier.
yeah,
And yeah, I think that the theories are part of the fun. I think it's more so on us as the viewer to have fun theorizing, but not let that kind of ruin our experience of watching what the writers came up with.
yeah. So like, I think it's you can't put too much stock into your own theories or the theories that you like because it's not always going to be true, right? And it happened like as we said this has happened with every show that
And
is like
movie.
weekly release and movie that's weekly, yeah, or like like whenever there's hype around something, you always like, oh, maybe this will happen, maybe that will happen. I mean, it happens with Star Wars, it happens with any big product that you could think of, and I mean, it's a pro and con type of thing because it's going to build hype around that product, but at the same time, if it gets away from itself, it could do more damage than good.
I would agree. And with that being said, John has mentioned his theory on where this universe is going. I'm just going to put it out there. I have zero ideas for where this is all going. So no one asked me for my theories. I'm just along for the ride. John, why don't you present us with what you think is going to happen?
So, guys, as I've said, I've bit the bullet. I've dug deep. I've went down, and I'm full send in this sweaty universe of I want to know what's gonna happen next. I'm so excited for every Marvel show after this, and I can't wait. Right, but I do have a connection with this show, and obviously we know that the next thing we're gonna see Wanda in, is gonna be the Doctor Strange movie. Right now, cue up the last scene of uh WandaVision, right? Or the last end credit scene where she's in the cabin, she's using her astral projection to study, and then all of a sudden she hears her kids cry out for help, right? Now, here's the thing. Wanda's super powerful, right? Which means I don't think those kids are from this universe. I think she's almost opening up, she's looking to a different universe where they still exist, right? Or in a universe where they exist. And that's what she's hearing. So what's going to happen is I have a feeling Wanda's going to be the problem of this Doctor Strange multiverse of madness. And it's called multiverse of madness, which means multiple universes, right? And my theory is she's going to try to go after her kids, and it's Doctor Strange's job to fix things and kind of stop her or make sure she doesn't mess anything up and whatnot. And I don't think he's fully going to be successful. But I have a feeling is going to happen. And once again, it's just a theory that I thought up. They still need to find a way to bring mutants into this world, right? And the way that we discussed in our group, and I think on maybe the last podcast, is I said, oh, Wanda's going to blow up her hex and it's going to cover the world, right? And then boom, mutants. Another way that might be possible is if the only way that these magic people could fix what they did by these two universes being interfered with is somehow merging them, right? And now when this merge happens, maybe some of the people who have to get merged or whatever, they end up becoming mutants, right? In this new universe. Because if you look at the comics and if they hold it true, and if we do get Wanda's kids in this universe, they are mutants, right?
Wanda's a mutant.
Yeah, so you can't just bring them in and be like, well, they're just superheroes, right? And then all of a sudden have mutants and be like, well, they're not those, even though in the comics they're those. I don't see that being like sitting well with a lot of people and being like, what? Like, why wouldn't you just do it this way? So my theory is that she goes in, she's trying to get her kids, and then things are getting messed up, and they have to merge these worlds, and boom, you work the mutants into the universe, and everything, just comes together nicely. We get, and then guess what? In that universe, guess who's Quicksilver?
Oh, you think
Evan Peters. Don't get rid of him. You paid too much money for him to be in here. He's a good Quicksilver. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. I'm just holding out hope, though. That's why I don't think we're done. If I'm somehow right, one, if I'm somehow right, holy crap. Two, yeah, like make Evan Peters Quicksilver again, right? It could happen, and it could work. And I don't know if people would be mad about that, right? Like if that's how they merge things, because they have to merge things. And I don't think in a comic, like they ever had to do that, right? I don't think there was in a comic where there wasn't mutants and then all of a sudden there was, right?
So I think in the comics there were mutants, and then I could be wrong. I think Wanda exterminates mutants or something.
Yeah, so we'll just do the opposite.
So all could happen. I think Kevin Feige said the X-Men movie is about 5 years away.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, what happens within the next 5 years? When do they get introduced? How do you do it? So that could be the case. And we also, if we do the multiverse thing, we have to assume that's how Spider-Man 3 takes place, because allegedly all 3 live-action Spider-Man from the movies are going to be in that one. Multiple villains from that universe, including one I'm not a big fan of, one that I'm a massive fan of for my favorite superhero movie, is going to be in there. So things are going to get wacky pretty soon.
Can you imagine the storyboard in like this Marvel, like where the Marvel production building? Like,
well, number one, I can't imagine it because it's so locked tight.
Bro,
you know how many NDAs you have to sign to get in there?
Probably? I know, but like it has to be like a room. Like they have to have a wall in a room just with like lines and pins going all over the place. Like it has to be insane with just like the things they have to go through. But also that plays to the strength of Marvel, where I do think they're planning ahead, right? Like I think now that they know they have X-Men and they're like 5 years down the line, this is our goal where we have to reach. They're like, okay, we're sticking to this has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen. So I like that, right? Like, because as we've talked about, that's one thing DC can't get straight is, hey, set a plan for yourself. Have goals, say, I want to be here at this point in time, and now let's build the story to that.
Or if you have a plan, stick to it and not deviate from it
Mm-hmm.
immediately. I mean, so Doctor Strange is expected to release next March,
Mm-hmm.
so we have a year. So I think they're filming either right now or they're soon
Yeah,
to be filming.
so that's another thing. Both of the kids who played Wanda's kids were they put up Instagram posts and they were both in the same town and I forgot where. So that's the same week that they were filming Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness in that
Oh
town.
wow!
So these kids are gonna be in it, obviously. Also, during that clip, which I didn't pick up, once again, shout out heavy spoilers. He says it's Wanda's kids, and then it goes into Doctor Strange theme music,
Oh
and I
cool.
didn't even pick that up. So, it obviously this is gonna play a role in that thing. And it has to be like I can't picture it has to be her trying to get her kids, right? Like and it's messing things up and he's trying to fix it. So once again, she could be seen and this is what I was saying earlier. I think this is where she might be seen as like she's trying to do a good thing for herself. I mean, selfishly a good thing, but it's gonna create bad things to happen possibly. Especially if she creates mutants. Like if she's the source of mutants,
You think it's possible that she just asks Doctor Strange for help though?
oh, it could be. But then at
I
the
could see
same
that because
But you
what if
think
it's the
Doctor Strange is
situation?
gonna be like, yeah, let's pull new people?
Here's how I think it could happen. So now she is. They said out loud in this show, "You are now more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme." So she could go up to him and be like, "Hey, I'm going to do this whether you help me or not. If you help me, I'll likely cause less damage. What do you say?"
So like a
And then
buddy,
it's
adventure movie
a
through.
reluctant buddy adventure movie.
Ooh, I like it.
I think
That
that could be fun.
that could be fun too. And then
But
she's not as bad of a bad. Like,
yeah, exactly. Because then number one, she is trying to keep things clean. Number two, you have the comedy of her being kind of, what if she is still like that mom, corny comedy type of character that she was sometimes throughout the series, while
mhm.
Doctor Strange is like the straight man who's like, can we just shut up and just get the kids and leave? you know.
Yeah.
So who knows? I think there's a lot of fun to be had with that movie going forward. And do you have anything else that you'd like to add on the show?
I have one question, not necessarily about the show, but as Marvel in general.
Sure.
With this whole mutants integration, right? Would you be okay if they were just like, oh, they were here, we just didn't know? Like if all of a sudden they
Uh,
started popping up, like
I would rather
we need a
the I'd rather the mutant gene have been a
mhm,
thing, but maybe had been triggered
by an
to
event.
to start up by an event. Like maybe if you wanted to say the snap
Mm-hmm.
being this cosmic energy, maybe that awakened the gene.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, because I just don't know how you do it. It's
Well, that's the
because
thing.
they
Like,
are an entire like there's races of humans
mm-hmm.
or ethnicities. This is an entire race of people now added to the earth, and
Yeah.
it's a culture. There's racism towards that group of people. There's a lot to do. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I don't envy the people who have to make those
That
creative
decision.
decisions because there's ways to flub it all up and there's ways to succeed.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I was thinking about. Like, they can't just be like, oh, now it's here, right? So I think once again, going back to theories, I think we're gonna see a lot of theories, and people are just gonna be waiting for that moment. What's the moment where they introduce the mutants? What is gonna be that thing that introduces the mutants? Um, and I think every time we get a new piece of content, we're moving one step farther away from the thing being the snap. Um,
True.
because I mean, what are you gonna say? The snap happened, and now here next cell, we're moving further down the timeline, and we're
So here's a
not
question.
seeing any repercussion.
Here's the question then. WandaVision takes place like a week or two after the snap.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, after the reintroduction of people into society.
Mm-hmm.
Far From Home is like 3 months.
Yeah. After we didn't.
So we're now at least 3 months away.
Yeah, and we haven't seen any mutant talk, or because like
Yeah.
that's another thing. Like what they a lot of Easter eggs was like the news snippets that would be on in the background, like as they were walking into Shield, there would be news, and none of those said anything about a mutant. Obviously, it's because they didn't own. Like probably when they were planning these shows and having those little Easter eggs set up, there wasn't really the plan for that yet. Now, so they couldn't have worked it in that way if they wanted to, possibly. I
Yeah.
mean, so it's just one of those things where I think it's not going to be the snap that does it. So why not somehow? But I mean, once again, they have their storyline for Multiverse of Madness. So if that wasn't the storyline, you can't just be like, this is the thing that did it.
Yeah. No, for sure.
That's not
Uh,
Marvel of them. That's DC of them. It's not Marvel of them.
I have one final question for you. I know you mentioned Evan Peters sticking around as Quicksilver.
Mm.
Do you want them to use the same X-Men cast in the Marvel universe?
I mean, obviously there's pertinent characters um, like who's the guy who plays Wolverine? I'm blanking.
Hugh Jackman.
Like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine would be like, oh, that's awesome. Um, but not really. I'm not really sold on anyone.
I want a completely new cast.
Yeah,
Even
like
Wolverine. I want them all new.
I wouldn't be mad because it's not the same, and I think that's one hard line that we're like, hey, especially for common folk, when you're saying, oh, X-Men again, X-Men is a bigger superhero franchise, so in order to show that this is not the same X-Men, like yeah, it's the same as in like they're same characters but a different storyline and universe.
Yeah.
I think you need to do different actors and actresses, which is, I mean, sad, but it's we're moving on in life. We've had 17 Spider-Man. We've had 23 Superman.
Plus, there's a lot of stink on that last X-Men,
Yeah.
the last couple films of the X-Men universe, for multiple reasons that we don't need to get into. Let's leave that in the past.
Yeah,
Let's.
I'm fine with starting new, starting fresh. Under Marvel regime, I mean, if there's anyone who's gonna make movies that hold up to the best X-Men, or surpass the best X-Men movies, it's Marvel and what they're able to do. I mean, once again, I this whole Marvel and Disney merger is only making things better. And as we keep saying, and as I said during those for the podcast for the first couple episodes of this, we have no reason. Still, after this show has aired and finished, we have no reason to doubt Marvel. They have not given me an inkling. And I wasn't fully excited for Falcon and the Winter Soldier before this show. I was like, just another. I know it's probably gonna be more actiony and just kind of whatever. I'm more excited now, and I think we're actually gonna get more of a deeper storyline than I initially anticipated. Um, which excites me because I was like, oh, what is it just gonna be? Just an action show? Like, bleh.
It's weird that we thought that, given how good
Marvel is at telling stories.
specifically the Captain America movie that introduced
Bucky.
both Bucky
Both
and
Falcon,
Sam.
yeah.
You know, like that's probably the best standalone Marvel movie. So it's like we're so dumb to think that.
And I mean, and we've heard rumors of certain things that they might try to tackle during this.
True.
Very hot button topics. I'll let everyone find out on their own if they want to.
Yeah, and if they even do.
Yeah,
but it's exciting.
Again, rumors. But I'm now super excited. Right, I'm full sold. Every single Marvel TV show that comes out, I'm gonna watch the day it comes out. Most likely the morning if they keep doing this strategy, and we're gonna keep doing podcasts. It's just and if it's good, if it's bad, I mean, once again, when was the last bad thing that we got from Marvel? I mean, are we really like Guardians 2? But
actually,
is it even?
I have one that I wasn't crazy about. I hate saying it because it got flamed for reasons outside of what it should have been flamed for. I found the Captain Marvel movie to just be like
just a movie.
It's just all right.
Yeah. I mean, same. I did watch it on a flight back from Hong Kong, so maybe that also hurt my viewing.
And I watched it late at night.
Yeah, so that wasn't a movie that we went to go see in a theater. Which I mean, bruh. If we get back to theaters, I think we're watching every movie here on out in the theater. I 100%. Appreciate that more now than ever.
100%.
Also, do you know what would be cool? Just to help theaters and revenue and stuff. If they did like a binge series of like WandaVision in a theater,
That'd be
like you
cool
sit there and they just show all the episodes back to back. That'd
because
be
they did that.
and it.
They did stuff like that for like the Avengers movies, I think.
That'd be so much fun. And it's, I mean, how many? So there was what, 9 episodes, about a half hour each. What is that? About 4.5 hours. I mean, that's long,
Size
but
of a double feature.
if it's an event, I mean, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Um,
especially if you could like rent out the theater still at that point for like
yeah,
$100 or something.
that'd be so sick, and being able to see this, and that was the one thing, like, um, the designs and the production levels still there. Like they're putting high production into the shows, which is super exciting. Now, obviously, I said one of the little qualms I had was towards the end, the CGI was slipping a little bit. Um, but yet again, don't blow all your money on that. I don't
I
mind.
think that was because there was so much in that last
Yeah,
episode. That
yeah,
was a
yeah,
lot of CGI.
yeah.
So,
And it's one of those things. I'm not mad at it. I'm not expecting them to be perfect with this stuff. I mean,
have you seen the turtleneck vision memes?
yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah, yeah,
everywhere.
yeah, yeah, dude. That's how you know show's doing well. It's all over Black Twitter. Um,
Yeah.
it's
Dude, there's
Black
so many. I love it. There's so many pictures of him with like, with
Viz Sean.
yeah, and like with the old Drake cut where it was like the
Mm-hmm.
line and the fade and stuff and the beard. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny.
But once again, I'm overall my final impression on WandaVision is a great show. I'm gonna rewatch it, obviously. Um, and I'm excited because I'm gonna rewatch it with my girlfriend. So, and it's gonna
Oh
be her
wait, she didn't
first
watch it
watch.
with you, right?
She didn't watch it, no. So
Oh
we're gonna
wow.
rewatch it. So I'm gonna be seeing it the second time, which is exciting. And then I'm gonna get to experience her confusion and excitement, hopefully, as we go through it. So I can't wait. Um, and shout out Marvel once again. Shout out Marvel. Best time to be a sweaty comic book nerd. We're still in the golden era, boys and girls. We're still in the golden era.
That's crazy, right? To
It's they
think.
haven't lost it. I mean, so far, right? I mean, Spider Man was great. I thought Far From Home was a great movie. I mean, obviously it wasn't the best. I mean, I don't think it was like the very best that we've gotten, but it was good. I don't think they slipped. And now we have this.
So you know how the saying is like there's three things in certain in life. It's like death, taxes, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
For me, there's three things certain in life: LeBron James, Drake, and the MCU. Those are like the three things that constantly hit for the past 10 years of my life, and they're never going away. And it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't take any of those three things for granted. Drake just dropped the project. I'm excited about it. Marvel just dropped a banger of a show, and they're continuing on their dominance in the superhero genre. I'm excited about it. LeBron just won a title. Excited about it. So it's a pretty cool time in my fandom. In this time of my fandom. And John, if the people wanted to discuss Marvel's Vision with you in real time, with you responding in real time, where can they do that?
Twitter is a great one. Go to Twitter and you tweet at me. You could DM me. You could message me at right above my head, Ginger Girl with the underscore underneath it. But search Ginger Girl Gaming on Instagram. You can message me there. Come jump into my Twitch streams at Ginger Girl Gaming on there. Drop a comment down below on this video on YouTube at Ginger Girl Gaming. If you're on a podcast, you could come over. You could see Kyle and mine's beautiful faces, and you could interact with us there. I know Kyle also. If I told him like, hey, we got comments, he would jump in there on his Geeks Weekly account
For
possibly
sure.
too, and we'd have that conversation. We once again, yeah, theories. You have ideas. If you don't like what we said, if you hate what we said, let us know. We just love the conversation, positive or negative. And Kyle, what do you got going on, and where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Geeks Weekly. A bunch of stuff going on over there. With we talked about a Marvel show for a while. I have a DC show that I'm a big fan of right now that I'm talking about every week, and that would be Superman and Lois. If you're a fan of that character, check that show out. Check out my weekly reviews. Come have a conversation with me about it. And it's the movie. The movie season is picked back up in terms of like really great stuff is coming out, and I guess just HBO Max in general starting to pick up steam with certain movies. So there's gonna be more new movie reviews coming out. Thankfully, I'm so happy about that. And you can find me on John's stream as well. I'm on there a couple times a week. We'll talk. We'll give the chat warning about spoilers, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about all this fun stuff. And
Um,
yeah, I think that'll about do it for us on this episode. We don't have a set plan
mhm.
for next podcast, so
So the next
bear with us.
podcast in 2 weeks would be after the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, I mean, depending on one, length, and two, gravitas of that
Yeah,
episode, it might be, who knows, we might be do something about that. We might wait um another week and then do something. And Kyle and I also have talked about watching Hunter x Hunter. So maybe next podcast will be about that. But these are just some ideas we got going on. And we'll keep you guys updated. But
sure.
until
Maybe
then,
we'll talk about it on Twitter or on the stream.
yeah, exactly. But until then, peace out, everybody.
See you next time.